Okay, so we've just heard that amazing story told in a dramatic fashion by the children in our kids ministry here at the Barn, and I have to say, it was brilliant. Should we give them a big round of applause for those who are on film? That was the story of the night that changed everything. The very first Christmas story. The night that, in the middle of the night, while the town of Bethlehem was sleeping, baby Jesus was born. But what would breakfast in Bethlehem the next morning really look like? Would anything have actually changed at all? Well, actually, for your average Bethlehemite, yes, that's right, I actually Googled it, nothing would really be any different. Everything would have been pretty much the same. They would have woken up, got up the same as always, come downstairs. Maybe they would have poured themselves some cereal. I don't know what a Bethlehemite usually eats, but I'm thinking it might be something like Crunchy Nut. What do we think? Mine's running out a bit, so you get all those bits at the bottom. So I poured myself some cereal, made a bit of a mess. We've got some orange juice. This is about normal for somebody in Bethlehem, I'm sure. And then they potentially just flick open the morning news. See what's going on. On the front, there's a tax collector who's collected more than required. Same old, same old. And they have a flick through, and there's something on page 7 about some baby born in a stable last night, but I'd rather turn over and have a look and see how Bethlehem United did at the weekend. And that's pretty much it. You see, people in Bethlehem the next morning, waking up to have their breakfast, wouldn't have really known what had happened. They wouldn't actually know the reality of what had gone on last night. Jesus came into the world very quietly. Now, I know, moms, that the birth may not have actually been quiet, but he arrived in a small, sleepy town while everyone was asleep, round the back in a stable. There were no fanfares, there were no royal declarations. Baby Jesus arrived pretty quietly. So if the first Christmas day had been the day before, then surely this is the first Boxing Day. And if it's the first Boxing Day, then where is my leftover turkey sandwich? And if it's the first Boxing Day, then surely we've got some football match to go and watch. Or some new toys to play with. Or potentially some sales to eagerly look forward to. Or the infamous Boxing Day walk with the in-laws. If it's the first Boxing Day, then they're not doing any of the right things, but it's because they didn't know. Your average person in Bethlehem the next morning at breakfast did not know that the Saviour had been born the night before. They were all sleeping. They weren't aware. They didn't know that that local, stable birth would change everything. But I know somebody who it did change everything for. The birth of Jesus in the stable changed everything for Jesus' parents, Mary and Joseph. Have a newborn baby? I don't think they'd have time for breakfast. Mary and Joseph's world was turned upside down in a brilliant and crazy way the night before. Because kids, I don't know if you've ever discussed it with your parents, but before you were born, their lives were probably very different. And after you were born, their lives probably turned very different very quickly. And now I'm going to have somebody to help me with this illustration, and I've got baby Joshua here to come and give me a hand at looking at life after babies are born. So, Joshua, having a baby changes a lot, right? Joshua's mummy agrees with me, and that's why she's lent him to me for this moment, that babies really do change your whole world. Parents, have a moment. Think back to what your lives were like before these bundles of joy came along. Maybe, Joshua, they were living it up. Maybe they were staying out late. Maybe they were lying in the morning, and they didn't know what was about to hit them. They didn't know how you would change their whole world. Oh, and he's knocked my mic off. He's already causing mischief. So, in fact, I have a quote from Joshua's mummy, and that quote says, "It's smellier." Is that right? "It's damper, and it's funnier, and more tiring, and more wonderful than you could ever imagine." He doesn't know what's going on. I am not sure I can think of anything that is the same as it was a few years ago. Joshua, I really have heard that babies change everything. I've heard that they change your daytimes. They change your night times. They change your free time. They change the things you talk about. They change the things you think about. They change the things that you post on Facebook about. They change the way you socialise. They change the way you live. And they change the way you feel. And they're all worth all the dampness, worth all the smelliness, 1,000 times over. From what I've been told about becoming a parent, that breakfast in Bethlehem the next morning for Mary and Joseph, and every morning after that, would be so much more different than they could ever have imagined. Right, Joshua, I am going to pass you back because you haven't cried yet, and it's been amazing. But in actual fact, the birth of baby Jesus didn't just change everything for his mom and dad. Your birth, little ones, didn't just change everything from your mom and dad. Other people were affected. But baby Jesus' birth actually changed the whole world forever. In one night, everything was different, not just for Mary and Joseph, although they had a lot on their hands. They may not have known it, but chatting over their cornflakes or their porridge the next morning in Bethlehem, that local stable birth had really changed their lives and everybody else's. God sent his son Jesus to overcome the darkness, to make a way back for God, to reunite us with our Father in heaven and to set us all free, and he had done just that. That first Christmas really did change everything. Even more than that, the fact that baby Jesus was born and that Mary and Joseph had this whole new thing to take care of. Even more, the Saviour was here. He was finally born. The whole world was suddenly different. Even if they didn't know it, the whole world had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again.